hope we don't get iced.
I hope you don't get iced. I can't trick. I start shift in an hour.
What?
I have a shift in an hour.
You have a shift in an hour? I know. That's what he was saying. Ben got that. He did very well.
Ben 10, everyone.
Okay, cool. So, hello everybody. Welcome to Learning Through Mentorship.
So we're going to start off and we'll introduce each other. This is my paternal sister, Totenkopf, to my right here. I did talk to Mom earlier, and she said thanks for allowing our little cousin to come on stage and do a talk with you. So, she is a consultant at Rapid7, currently pursuing her degree, squats 33 kilos, and I forgot what the other thing she does is. She's a fantastic human being.
We got bored, so we decided to write each other's bios. So, Moe, when he's not a management at his current company, is by night he moonlights as international man of mystery, kind of like 007, but like further down the list, like 22. And together we work on the BSidesLV Proving Grounds. So that's kind of why we're here talking to you. So this is a mentorship talk, right? We want you to stay a while and listen about not just our experiences in the mentor-mentee relationship, but also we want to hear about your experiences as well, because we want to work with each other to build more relationships, so that way we can help each other learn and take these new people. We're slowly getting a trickle of people who are going to school for InfoSec, which is kind of weird, and although that teaches them some stuff, it doesn't teach them anywhere near everything that they need to know in order to be useful in our organizations. So that's why we're here.
So with that said, we want to make sure you guys stop, ask questions, engage us in conversation, right? This certainly we don't want to sit here and dictate to you guys. So I think for me, one of the things is I've benefited very much throughout my career through mentorship. I remember when I was very early on in my career as an analyst, one of the things is I was getting stressed out because we weren't fixing, we weren't patching. Oh my goodness, the world's going to end. We're not patching, yada, yada, yada. And it was, coming down to a business decision. We didn't have resources. We didn't have time. And I remember my mentor at the time told me, Moe, the avalanche is halfway down the mountain. Just step out of the fucking way. Like, stop. And that really helped put things in perspective to me. Also, as Magen talked about, Proving Ground has really helped us tremendously learn about how other people learn, how to engage people, and how to speak to people. So with that being said, how are we learning today? So we're learning through things like this. People coming here to Derbycon, listening to talks, listening to other people's ideas, listening to our experts. Hey, I was in a talk earlier today about reverse engineering. I don't really know much about reverse engineering, but it motivated me enough so that when I go home, I'm going to download some of these tools and I'm going to play around with that. And that's exactly what the second part of how we typically learn is we take things that we're seeing other people doing, things that we found on YouTube, things that we found on Iron Geek's site, and we're trying it out for ourselves. There's a lot of on-the-job learning happening as well. A lot of people don't know SIM. And the best way to learn SIM is to actually pick it up and run with it. Start parsing those logs, start understanding those feeds and what's going on from there.
And also, like we kind of touched on earlier, is the old school hackers who've been in the industry or the scene for a long time, we're mostly self-taught, right? We sat there and we plugged away at the thing until we finally got the shell, or we unlocked something, or we broke our first cipher and we learned crypto on our own. But now we have these new guys who are coming in and went to school, right? There's classes. Some of us are going back into universities and teaching stuff. So it's completely different. They might not have the same mindset as us, but they're still bringing more to the table, and we could benefit from that relationship.
Yeah, I just hired an information security analyst who has a degree in information security assurance. And it's odd because they don't understand some of the basic concepts. They've never built a system. So this is one where I'm currently mentoring him now to understand how information security is beneficial to the organization.
So we were curious, okay, well, we know the different ways that we learn, and we know that mentorship is a part of this, but let's send out a survey on Twitter and see what happens, right? Let's see what's going on with everybody else. So we had 63.
Hello, I'm Geek here. Unfortunately, one part of the video rig froze up and we had some issues. But if you fast forward to just a little bit before the 7-minute mark, audio should resume. Sorry for the inconvenience.
Address Ben's question. So he asked, how do you keep a mentor from becoming a manager? Well, it's about communication, right? A mentor is someone who guides someone and coaches them. A manager tells you, go do this. It's not their job to tell you how or why. You just go do the thing. So if you think of it as, I'm going to go on like a nerd rant here. If you think of Sailor Moon, right? You have Luna, who's the black kitty, and she finds Sailor Moon and helps her unlock her powers as Sailor Moon and find the other Sailor Scouts and develop and grow, right? So Luna, the kitty, is the mentor. Sailor Moon is the mentee. I know you guys are just like, what a nerd.
Can I go right meow? No.
What?
Can I talk right meow?
Right now? Yeah.
Meow. No. So there's a lot of benefits to this kind of relationship. For the mentee, meaning the person who's actually learning, who's actually receiving the knowledge or being guided, is impartial advice and encouragement. It becomes very difficult when you're in a situation to be able to get separation, get perspective. So having someone you could bounce the ideas and understand something a little bit from a more impartial view becomes invaluable. We talk about developing networks, and what Toddy was just talking about is helping others come into our industry, be knowledgeable, so for the benefit of the entire industry, we're building a stronger support network through mentorship.
And also just to build off of the impartial advice and encouragement. So going back to, some of us are kind of socially awkward and are dealing with different things. I, for one, am one of those people who, even if it's a really minor screw up, I'll just sit there and be like, oh my God, I can't believe I did this. I should have done this and this and this and this, and it would have gone so much quicker. It would have been so much easier, et cetera, et cetera. And then if you have someone trusted and you go to them and you're like, okay, hey, Moe, I did this when I should have done this, and it's really awful, and I messed up. And it's nice to have someone there to go, why are you stressing out over this? It's not that big of a deal. You still got the report in, you still got the shell, it's still done.
Or we still made the Sailor Moon reference in the talk, so.
Thanks, Moe.
For the mentor, it improves job satisfaction. You talk about peer recognition. Being able to mentor someone allows you to distinguish yourselves between you and your other peers.
So there's a lot of studies that are coming out now that are like, okay, yeah, we've done a lot of studies. We see that it's good to have a mentor, but now they're starting to come out with more articles on why it's good to be a mentor. So first of all, they've noticed in the brain that as you help someone, it releases chemicals in the brain that make you feel good about yourself, right? You're like, okay, I was able to help somebody in need. It might have not been, a super big thing. It might not have been life or death, but I still helped them out, and they appreciate it, and it makes you feel good about yourself. And then also, it helps you build out relationship power. So there's a podcast that Armor Guy mentioned in another podcast he was on called Management Tools. And he talks about the 3 different types of power in an organization. So there's role power, and that's where you tell somebody to perform a function, and they'll do it because of your role in the organization. Okay, you're the manager, you're the executive, so you told me to do something, I'm going to do it. Then there's expertise power. So somebody who has established themselves in a certain field, when they say something, you're going to listen and follow what they say. So an example would be like if you sit in a talk by like Chris Nickerson and he's talking about red teaming. And he's like, oh, well, you should totally do this while you're on a red team engagement. Chances are you're going to be like, okay, well, that sounds pretty legit because it's Chris Nickerson telling me to perform this thing on an engagement and he knows what he's talking about. And then there's relationship power, where over time, as you're known as somebody who's approachable and able to help others, it makes other people more willing to help you out when you need it as well.
Lastly, I think it solidifies your own knowledge. For me, myself, when I mentor someone, it's very beneficial for me to reaffirm, hey, I know this thing, or I was able to guide without getting directly involved. There's nothing, and let me be selfish here for a minute as well, is outside of that confirmation of, hey, I actually know something, it's a reward, and it's something that I get enjoyment out of. What's up, Ming? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great point. Avoiding imposter syndrome. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. A lot of us in the industry, and there have been a couple of talks about it even, where we talk about how we struggle with, oh, I can't talk about this, or I can't submit a CFP because I'm not an expert on this. Or, oh, somebody else submitted a talk on this, so that means I can't do it because I'm nowhere near as smart as this person. So by mentoring and reaffirming that knowledge, sorry, bro. So by mentoring and reaffirming that knowledge, it kind of helps relieve some of that pressure that imposter syndrome puts on us to be the best, to, be better than anyone ever was.
Right. So we want to shift and talk about, what the mentorship paradigm really is. As Toddy mentioned, I'm kind of a manager, so I don't put together a slide deck without having a circle diagram. So I needed to do something like that. So what we really saw was really having 5 stages in the mentorship kind of program. And we're going to talk about each of these, but they're really about preparation, about finding your mentor, about, making sure that you meet, cultivating a relationship, and then making sure that you have a clean separation.
And it's also important to note that this is an iterative process. You might not go through it exactly the same way with the same person over time. Over time, you're going to find a different mentor, or you're going to be a mentor to someone else, or to multiple people.
So what's the first thing that you want to do? It's really make sure that you're prepared. That's going to require some self-evaluation. And don't get me wrong, this is going to have to be on both sides. Both the mentor and mentee need to make sure that they properly prepare. That means understanding your values, making sure that you understand your work habits and style. So for me, I'm an early bird person. I get up at 3:30 in the morning and do what I need to do. That means that I should not be mentoring someone who's a night owl who's up until 2, 3 in the morning when I'm getting up, right? So understanding yourself, doing that evaluation. Also, it requires you to understand what your strong and what your weak points are. And whether that's personal, professional, where you need to really hone in and understand what's going on. For the mentee, it's understanding what your goals are. Making sure that you're able to clearly communicate that, hey, I'm looking for a mentor to help me prepare my first talk. That's my goal, and that's a 3-month goal, and we're going to go out and achieve it. I need help with that.
So now comes the question a lot of us are wondering is, how do I find my mentor, right? It's not like the Dr. Seuss book, Are You My Mom, where you can go up to someone and be like, hey, will you be my mentor? Because especially if you haven't built a relationship or you haven't been formally assigned, it's kind of creepy, like we said before, to just randomly come up to someone and ask that. Now, sometimes, depending on the person, it might not be creepy. They might be like, oh, wow, that's really flattering. You saw my talk. You think that I'm really knowledgeable in this field and I have the free time. I would be happy to mentor. Other people, it doesn't work as well because, either they're traveling a lot or they have a large workload or they already have a large number of mentors or mentees that they're taking care of and they don't feel like they could give you enough attention that you need. So we asked, how did you find your mentor? Well, about half of them said that it's a senior person on their team. About 25% said it was a peer in their social group, so someone they met at conferences like Derbycon, any of the B-Sides, DEF CON, etc. And then another quarter said other. And we didn't capture whether it was a formal or an informal relationship. So again, we're going to turn this out to you guys. Can we get a couple of shouts how you found your mentor or mentee? Twitter? Okay.
How many people who are mentors or mentees, how many people actually use that, was actually formed that through like a formal program at work? Nice. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually what was interesting was I did have, so I used to work at another consulting firm before I moved to Rapid7, and they did things a little differently that I found was really interesting and kind of helpful. So when you first entered the company, you were assigned a buddy for 90 days, and this is the person you can ask any stupid question, like how do I, log my time, how do I bill expenses, how do I do this or that, and they are supposed to answer it with as little judgment as they can muster, right? And then after that 90 days, it's up to you to say, okay, well, I've been with the company for a little bit, and I've worked with this person some, and they really know a lot about this field. So I would like to identify them as my mentor. And if they have the time and they haven't been overcommitted to other mentees, then they get assigned as your mentor. And I thought that was really interesting. And then over time, once a quarter, you got to, it was a more formal meeting with your mentor, and you determine, okay, well, I learned as much as I feel I'm going to learn with you, and I'm going to move on to this person as my mentor. And there's no hard feelings. And it was really interesting because it allowed you to continue to grow.
I think the other two things is when you're looking for a mentor is make sure that you're not doing this in a vacuum. Go out there and get recommendations. You may say, hey, I really want to learn AppSec, or I really want to learn PowerShell. Go out to your local meetup, go out somewhere and find out, hey, who's the expert, who could help me out, understand this. And also, we kind of touched on this earlier, is you may require multiple mentors, right? Not everyone, just like in our industry right now, not everyone is an expert in everything. Having multiple mentors could help you out beneficially. So don't try to find a single resource to solve all your problems or to guide you appropriately in everything.
Because you're not going to find it. It doesn't exist. You're not going to find one person that fits all of your learning needs, right? And hopefully they won't get hurt if you tell them, oh, well, I'm meeting with this person to learn about this, but I'm still meeting with you about PowerShell, AppSec, etc.
So one of the things that you want to make sure is when you meet, that first meeting, I think, is always very critical to the relationship. You want to go and use that knowledge that you got in that preparation phase when you were self-reflective and thought about what you needed, about who you are, what you are, and bring that and consider how to market yourself. What are you going to tell your mentor? What are you going to tell your mentee about yourself? Again, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but this is going to be a very vulnerable process as well. You're going to expose things about yourself to say, hey, I don't know about this, but I'm really good at this.
And also, it's important to note that as we're going through this, it sounds like this really rigid and formal process. It doesn't have to be. The mentee-mentor meeting can be like at a bar once every couple of weeks. And, hey, how are things? Oh, things are pretty good. I want to learn more about this. Oh, well, you should check out this talk. Oh, cool. What about PowerShell? Well, you should check out Ben 10's talk on Saturday. You're welcome.
So that check did clear.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Well, he drank the Smirnoff, so I have to pimp his talk.
So what room and what time is that talk?
Ben, what room and what time is your talk?
It's 1 o'clock.
It's near the pool on the roof.
1 p.m., I believe, track 2? Teach me?
It's 1.
Track 1. So if you want to learn more about PowerShell, Ben's talk is going to be really good. No pressure.
Next part of the process is really make sure that you cultivate the relationship. Again, that self-evaluation is going to really help you figure out what's the right structure. Hey, maybe every couple of weeks at a bar is perfect for some people. Other people, we need to meet every Tuesday at 7:30, between 7:30 and 7:45, and we need to go through these 3 bullet points. And it really works for different people in different ways. Make sure that you ask questions, and that's on both sides. So a lot of the times people don't know what they're asking for or don't understand exactly what they need. So ask and clarify questions, just like if you were completing your security assessment on anything, make sure you understand completely what the full situation is.
And then, as we discussed, at a certain point in time, you might feel the need to break off the formal mentor-mentee relationship and move on to a different mentor, and that's fine. Just make sure you don't burn the bridge or do it by all of a sudden you're not answering each other's emails, because you never know further down the road when you're going to be able to help one another. InfoSec is a really, really, really small community, like almost scary small. So if you burn a bridge with one person, you might be inadvertently burning that bridge with like 5 or 6 other people who could have helped you or who you could have helped.
Can we go back for 1 second?
Oh, sure.
So the other thing is making sure that this is also why setting goals is extremely important, because you want to make sure that separation is not awkward. You don't want to cause any friction between you, your mentor, your mentee, what have you. Having a clear objective, say, yes, we did reach this goal, or no, you're on your way, or making sure that separation is as smooth as possible. So that's the only thing I want to add.
So it's not all sunshine and roses, right? Sometimes we're going to come across different challenges finding someone that's the perfect mentor or perfect mentee for us. And we're just going to talk about a couple of the most common ones that we've seen while running Proving Grounds. So first of all, it's level of engagement. There have been quite a few times where we've been tasked with reaching out to a mentor or mentee and saying, hey, we got reached out, or we were contacted by the other person here, and they're saying, you're not delivering X deliverable by this date to make sure you're on track for your talk. Or, hey, your mentee feels a little ignored. Are you on vacation? You doing something? Etc. Because you need to let them know, because they're kind of having an anxiety attack over here because their talk's coming up. So it's important to let people know about levels of expectation. Like, hey, I need to have at least a weekly email to know that you're still going to help me out with this thing, that I'm not just drifting. Or if you say you're going to perform a task or give them some information, that you actually follow up.
The next one is making sure that what you're saying is clearly communicated. That's why you ask and clarify questions, that you're making statements. Sometimes not all what you say is what you mean, or it's not interpreted incorrectly. So making sure that you're giving the right advice, that advice is being interpreted correctly, you're taking the right actions.
And also that as a mentee, you're explaining to someone, okay, I want to be better at PowerShell. Okay, well, that's great, but what particularly do you want to do with PowerShell? Because there's a lot you can do with it, evidently. And sorry, Ben, I'll be at your talk tomorrow. Track 1 at 2 p.m. tomorrow. 1?
Track 4 at 1?
Yeah. So again, important to express yourself on both ends. And then sometimes you're just going to come across someone who's really difficult, who doesn't want to work with you, who's fighting you every step of the way. Sometimes, or this is usually going to happen in the formal mentorship programs, like at work and stuff. You're going to be assigned someone, you can't get out of it, and you're just like, I would rather chop off my left hand than talk to this person ever again, right? So
we touched on this. I'm sorry. We touched on this.
That's him being difficult.
We touched on this a little bit earlier ago, but this is very much like a dating relationship. Not everyone's the right fit for you, and understanding, hey, this is how I best work. This is what's going on. This person may not be being difficult. They just communicate in a different fashion, and that fashion just doesn't match with yours.
All right, so we left a lot of time open for questions and answers. We also have kind of a call to action where we hope to see more things like B-Sides London, B-Sides Las Vegas, and a couple of the other B-Sides where they take first-time speakers and pair them up with someone who's more established, who's done it a couple of times. Because it helps them form their thoughts more clearly. The slides don't suck as horribly. And when you're giving the presentation, it's kind of nerve-wracking. So it's nice to have a couple of people in the audience that you can look at and be like, okay, cool. I have somebody on my side. Even if this is the worst talk ever, they still got my back. And then they have feedback for me to make it better for the next time.
Right, and I think the other part of the call to action is participate in organizations like B-Sides who do first-time speaker talks, but also act locally. There's a lot of local meetups. If you're in the Chicago area, things like BurbSec, there's a lot of great professionals that are there in the social environment that can be your mentors, that you can lean out and get help with.
And also, it's nice to come to Derbycon. First of all, how many people is their first Derbycon? That's awesome. So, I personally have been coming to every single Derbycon since the first, and I will never miss it if I can help it, because it really is a tightly knit conference. I have not gotten the same vibe at any other conference than I do at Derbycon. I feel like I can go down to the bar, sit down next to someone that I saw present and say, oh, hey, can I grab you a beer or non-alcoholic beverage and let's talk more about your presentation, and then not have them, get that kind of rock star complex and, oh, no, that's cool. I'm going to go hang out with my friends over here. They'll be like, oh, yeah. Like, there have been a couple times where, like, I don't have time for drinks right now, but we're going to go down to GB and get some food. You want to come with, right? And that's one of the great things about cons like Derbycon, where it's smaller, more intimate, and people are generally willing to help one another out. Yeah, Ben.
So how do you break an unhealthy mentor-mentee relationship?
Oh.
Effectively without it consuming or hurting either?
I think it
Send him a text message.
post on Facebook. No, I think it goes back to making sure that you properly prepare for that relationship, right? Setting those goals so it's not a clear, you're not just meeting for some ambiguous purpose. You have a goal, and also making sure that you clearly understand yourself, saying, hey, Ben, I'm up at 3:30. You're, not getting up until 10. We don't have time to meet. Maybe someone else is better for me, or vice versa.
And it's also not just about the goal thing. One of the best ways that I've communicated with someone that I didn't want them to be my mentor anymore was just like, hey, I want to learn more about this particular subject, and this person has offered to help me more. Would it offend you if I, moved on to this? We can still talk, blah, blah, blah. It's not you, it's me. Let's still be friends. Yeah, Cody.
Where I live, there's very few people. So
Surprised you even have internet.
And if there is somebody that is in security in my area, typically I don't want to associate with them. Just saying.
Okay.
So, where are good communities for people looking to find mentors or be a mentor?
Twitter is a good place.
Twitter's a good place, and I would point out that one very good point. The gang in the Burbsec area, and also kind about the guys in the MySec area, they have a very big online presence.
Yeah.
And they're more than willing to communicate with people with IRC, Twitter, via emails. Just because they're located in Chicago or they're located in the Detroit area doesn't mean there aren't methods of communication. Google Hangout, Skype. And there are ways to accomplish that.
Yeah, absolutely, Wolf.
I think you're actually one of the best locations right now, which is Derbycon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've been in security for quite a while. This is my first opportunity to be at a real security conference. So I consider myself lucky to be able to get here. But a lot of people that I know don't have that same opportunity. And that's more of what I'm thinking of, is people that I can go back to and talk to and say, hey, if you're looking for something, here's an avenue.
So there used to be this really great program on totally internet based called InfoSec Mentors, and it was run by Marissa Fagan Doozy. But unfortunately, for a whole bunch of reasons, it kind of came apart. But it was so great because what she did was she grabbed people who around the world actually were looking to take some time and mentor somebody, and set them up with someone who was looking for a mentor in a particular area, and then based on interest, she would introduce them. So unfortunately, that's no longer active, but if somebody who has more time than me would want to pick that up,
Yeah, no, Cody,
something like that is amazing.
I really think, and again, it's really going through the process, putting yourself out there. I think it is very difficult for, again, an individual like myself who's introverted.
We need an InfoSec mentor app where we can swipe left or right.
Every time I start him on Grindr, he doesn't answer.
I don't even know what Grindr is, but okay.
But no, it is putting yourself out there, making sure that, hey, I'm looking for help. Reaching out, again, Wolf hit it on the head, MySec, Burbsec, those are channels on IRC that, hey, everyone's welcome. And, I think we have folks in all over the globe in the Burbsec channel. So, and question in the back, sir?
Have you guys thought about creating some resources to kind of help mentors to be more successful beyond this talk? Here's some suggestions of things to do and not to do.
So there's, sorry.
General guidance around that.
So that's a great question. There was a question about, in case somebody didn't hear it, is there another talk or other resources where you can learn about how to be a better mentor, better mentee? And actually, there was a really good ShmooCon talk a couple of years ago by Tara Von, I always butcher her last name, but she gave this talk on how to be a better mentor or mentee, and it was at ShmooCon. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. If you want, I can look it up and then tweet it on my Twitter account, so that way you guys can go and watch it and download it. But it gave some really good tips. Yeah.
If Las Vegas, not wrong, but if Las Vegas is the only one that has moving around right now, how do you make that happen?
So actually, BSides London has one. There's, I think, a couple of other conferences who are doing it as well. So yeah, we're by far not the first or only. What they all are, I don't know off the top of my head, but I'll try to look them up and post them on Twitter. Yeah.
What's the best way to have a casual mentoring relationship to solidify it and say, hey, she wants to be my mentor?
Well,
That's a good question.
That's a great question. So there could be a couple of different ways. One, really put yourself out there, right? Say, hey, would you like to be my mentor? Two is say, hey, I'm working on this project. Could you help me along? Can I bounce things off of you? So, it really can. Some of my best mentors weren't formal mentors where they knew they were helping me out, but I didn't say, oh, will you be my mentor? They knew that they were helping me with a specific project, a specific thing. Yeah. So,
You were still on it. Yeah, there. We're on the thank you slide.
oh, okay. So we would definitely like to thank Derbycon for allowing us to speak on this topic. It's something we definitely feel very passionate about, very glad, especially with our role for B-Sides Proving Ground. We've done Proving Ground for 3 years now. We've been able to...
We're about to start year 3.
No,
We're starting year 3. We've only done it 2 years.
So we're going into our third year now for B-Sides. But we in that time, we have helped over 75 individuals to deliver their first talk, along with, phenomenal people who have helped to be mentors. And there's nothing more rewarding, I think, from my perspective, is watching these people come up, deliver their first, ready to give their first talk, nervous as hell, and walk away just so relieved. So. And
also, I want to go back to thanking Derbycon, not just for letting us give this talk, but for having the vibe it does. A lot of us I know so many people who, they wouldn't feel comfortable speaking at other venues, but they feel comfortable enough giving their first talk at Derbycon, and going up to people and approaching one another. And so, yeah, just all the staff and volunteers, thank you. Yay! I would also like to thank my husband, M. Whenever I call him out as M, they're just like, does he make you gadgets, or is he like your handler? And I'm like, no, he doesn't do that. He makes sure that I get to the place on time. Also Moe for being an awesome co-speaker, Fail Open, Ben 10, Kita, and random people at Derbycon who let me kind of like creep my way into their conversations. It's great because a lot of people will be like, I don't know if you've noticed it, but we'll have like a semicircle in the lobby. And then if someone approaches from behind and just kind of listens, they open up a gap for you to enter and join the conversation. And that's really freaking cool.
And I have tons of people. I'd like to thank my family, my mentors, all these fantastic people noted here, and the folks at Burbsec who, again, are a lot of my unofficial mentors as well. So.
And if you want to reach either of us, you can do it at our email addresses. I'm at Totenkopf on Twitter. I'm also Totenkopf on Freenode. Whenever I'm on 2600net, you'll also see me there as Totenkopf. And then Moe at Security Moe everywhere. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.